when my friend said lenders deserve everything I gave them, he made substantial broker commissions, yield spread premiums, and points on doing those loans. The credit policy people let us down when they didn't have the nerve to stand up. Is this my guess? They didn't have the nerve to stand up to people who said, we can sell that product. We stopped asking. I put a note up here, the Sotheby's auction. If I hand all of you a bag of cash going into Sotheby's auction, the value of those assets will be distorted. You'll suddenly find that that little bauble is very cute and you want it because you were handed a bag of cash on the way in. Money ceased being real to you when it was simply handed. It is not an accident that in the same 5-year period of time in which we dropped all standards, we have a run-up, a historic run-up in real estate values. There is always a connection between underlying neighborhood income and real estate values, except maybe Paris and London. Every other community in the world has some sort of relationship between income and the neighborhood prices. Now, you just don't find waterfront Malibu, a neighborhood full of first-year Boeing engineers. That's not who lives waterfront Malibu. It's Spielberg and David Geffen and the rest of them. Neighborhood income absolutely has a relationship to prices. This little home in Paris, California is advertised for $400,000. I would suggest to you that if you make the $100,000 or $120,000 necessary to qualify for a $400,000 loan, that this is not the house that person's buying. This house is not a $400,000 house, but that's what it's been listed for. Let's talk about illiquidity a moment. Real estate is very illiquid. Russ and I were discussing last night the prospect of the U.S. government being a landlord now of a bunch of homes that are illiquid, and Russ will tell you some very interesting stories later about the history that the U.S. government has with being a landlord. If I'm an investor in real estate, I want a return on that investment. Real estate is illiquid. I can't just go down and cash it out like I can other kinds of investments. So my demand for an investment in real estate is somewhat higher than it might be for something that's liquid. If a piece of real estate spits off $2,000 a month, that's $24,000 a year. What's that worth? What's it worth to me to get a $24,000 a year return on my investment? Well, if I want 10%, $240,000. That's the math. But wait, real estate is illiquid, and I've got upkeep, and I've got expenses, and I've got taxes. Maybe that isn't worth $240,000 to me. Maybe that's worth $200,000 or $180,000. The problem in California, in Phoenix, in Las Vegas, in Florida, is that we got entirely away from cap rates. Nothing makes sense as an investor any longer. Merely as a speculator does it make sense. But the underlying cash flow from real estate now in California does not make any sense to investors. Let's skip ahead to this topic. Where are we headed from here? The blue line on this chart represents the slide in Japanese real estate values following the 1990 popping of their real estate bubble. People have said, well, where are our values going? Are we done here by 2009, maybe the start of 2010? I would remind you that Japan slid for 14 years. The International Monetary Fund illustrates the aberration of our prices with the red line that you see there. Where's it going? Well, steeply downward. And the IMF projects that we will eventually correct too far down on the downside. Markets do go too far up. They get, as Mr. Greenspan would say, irrationally exuberant, but they do decline too much as well on the down. So where is that? Well, I was asked the other day, where are we going? And I said, the easier question is, what do people make? In Orange County, California, we make $85,000. That's our median income. Well, our house price got to a median of $635,000. I would suggest, as Mr. Paulson is making plans to prepare plans to price these securities and to price these investments, that he simply must anticipate that in Orange County, California, our prices will fall back to about 3 or 4 times what people make. That's $280,000 to $300,000. No one in California wants to hear that. But I will say that in the last year we have fallen from $635,000 to $440,000 as a median price in Orange County. Where does this all end? The long-term view is actually very sanguine. It's a hopeful and wonderful long-term view. People are going to live within their means. People will owe less on their homes than they should, simply because you can't fake it anymore. You can't get stated income loans because investors aren't believing it. I think it's significant, and it doesn't speak well of us as an industry that we as an industry didn't find religion. We suddenly didn't say we need standards. What happened was we originated so many terrible loans that investors said, we don't believe anything you say. And so our credit markets dried up. And now we're scrambling around trying to find out how to proceed.